Hello everybody, welcome to Rookie YouTuber again. Now, the reason I did that was because I'm going to be watching BMA's video of biggest wastes of time ever. Now, BMA's, just know I am only doing this to gain popularity. Please don't copyright me, don't do anything, don't delete my channel, don't, do anything like that. Please, I am begging you. Okay. Now that's over with, let's dive into it. I bet you're wondering, and I'm really about to spend countless hours watching this guy's videos, wasting my time? Yes. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this because it might be very bad for your eyes and you, so I would not recommend doing this yourself. So, without that said, let's do it. Let's hit it. You don't care. I don't even like it.
At some point in your life, you've pointlessly scrolled through social media, watched a TV show you don't care about, or just stood in the shower vacantly staring at the wall.
I do that sometimes.
But no matter how much time you've wasted, you probably haven't sat on a toilet for 5 days straight or watched all of one of those 10-hour YouTube videos. But some people actually have. So get comfy because we're about to take a look at some of the biggest wastes of time in history. And before you get your clever comments ready, no, watching this video is not on the list.
This is kind of educational. I always love these guys' videos. The way that they animate, tell the stuff. It always just captures my attention. I can't stop watching until it's done.
Because we just needed to know what would happen to Sansa Stark, who would win
Sansa Stark,
or just how much
I don't like Squid Game.
Stranger Things could get. But
I only do the FNF ones.
Hold a candle to Alejandro Fragoso, who in 2016 watched a butt-numbing 94 hours of TV straight. Alejandro and a few friends entered into a bid to obtain the world TV watching record while promoting a new video optimization software for a company called Cyberlink.
Okay.
One by one, however, his companions dropped out until only Alejandro remained. During his binge session, he watched shows including Bob's Burgers, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Battlestar Galactica, and Game of Thrones. But the experience was horrible, taking a toll on
my parents absolutely love Game of Thrones, by the way.
At one point during
which adult wouldn't?
Alejandro began hallucinating a shopping list on the bathroom wall. After nearly 4 days of TV, Alejandro emerged victorious. It turned out he was a glutton for punishment, however. 1 year later, he claimed a similar record, spending 50 straight hours watching TV in virtual reality. It's not all bad, though. At least in VR, you wouldn't notice your body fusing to the sofa. Speaking of binge watching, if you love listening to incredible facts and watching amazing stories for hours on end, be sure to hit those like and subscribe.
That's what I'm gonna do for your sake. Don't try this at home, kids. Don't.
What have we got next? Hungry for pie. Let's talk about pie. And no, I don't mean the dessert. Now that joke's out of the way,
pie.
Or 3.14
I love chocolate pie, by the way, just that I get that out of the way.
Numbers in all mathematics. Simply put, pi represents the circumference of a circle divided by its diameter.
Just like actual pie.
The more small a circle is, if you divide its circumference by its diameter, you're going to end up with a fresh, delicious pie. Darn it! Pi is also interesting because those decimal points after 3 go on forever. Pi is an infinite number, though most of the time, you just need 3.14.
Don't you mean it constantly is infinitely bigger?
Shanks's life ambition so crazy. A school teacher, born in 1812, Shanks decided he was going to sit down and calculate pi for the rest of his life.
Wow.
According to Shanks, he would spend the morning calculating pi and the evening checking his work every day. By the end of his life in 1882, Shanks had calculated pi to 707 decimal points. Now, there are two main reasons why this was a waste of time. First, these many digits of pi are practically useless.
Yeah.
Even rocket scientists at NASA claim they only use pi up to 16 decimal places. Even worse, though, was the fact that Shanks was wrong. He'd made a crucial mistake in his calculations after digit 527, meaning the next 180 digits he calculated were a complete waste. At the end of the day, Shanks's pie ended up leaving a bitter taste in his mouth.
The jokes at the end are always so funny.
Gotta catch 'em all.
Gotta catch them all.
Unlike Pogs and Beanie Babies, Pokemon actually made it out of the 90s. In fact, the series is currently more popular than ever, with 8 generations of games and almost 900 collectible critters. That may sound like a lot to you, but at least one gamer looked at the series tagline, "Gotta catch 'em all," and thought, challenge accepted.
It's what I actually had a friend who captured every single Pokemon.
Rare chance of being shiny, meaning their colors are slightly different. For example, a shiny Bulbasaur is a more vibrant green, whereas a shiny Pikachu has gray-tipped ears. How rare are these Pokemon? Well, in the newer games, a Pokemon has a 1 in 4,096 chance of being shiny, while in the older games, it's a staggering 1 in 8,192. Most players will go their entire Pokerears without ever seeing one.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Japanese player Kyudon is not.
Me and my friends actually did a marathon where we did a challenge to collect 10 shiny Pokemon, and we had to stay up all the way till 2. It was terrible, believe me.
5 million Pokemon battles to catch every one. If we're generous and assume that each only took 15 seconds, that still equates to a total playtime of 1,128 days.
Oh, wow.
Now, he may have traded with other players in the newer games to speed the process up.
That's true.
But it still must have taken at least 3 years.
But who would trade for... But it better have been a really, really good Pokemon to trade for a shiny. That's like, shinies aren't even worth it if you think about it.
Random, insane way. It took him 3 years to get all the shinies in 2016, but since then, more Pokemon have been released.
It's basically just the same Pokemon, same level, same stats, same everything, but just a different colors.
Special Agent Kitty.
So technically, it's not even worth it. Why even make them exist if they're just color change? What's so special about them? Huh? They're rare, but that's it. They're unreasonably rare and have no right to exist.
Enacted their craziest ever scheme, Operation Acoustic Kitty.
Let me tell you something. Spies in Disguise may have been big, but guess what? I don't know if, I mean, cats are easily distracted. Same with dogs.
An attempt to raise, equip, and train a house cat into an American super spy.
Who was thinking? Who thought that a cat could become... Carmen Sandiego. Now, get me wrong. That show was pretty gosh darn horrible. It was actual garbage. I remember watching a few episodes and absolutely hating it. It was terrible. I hated it so much, just so much.
The long and arduous process of training the cat began. Acoustic Kitty would often get distracted, wander off, and otherwise ignore its handlers entirely. And all this equipment and training cost a whopping $20 million in
Whose idea was this?
The CIA released Acoustic Kitty into the field for its first training mission. But just minutes after letting the cat go, the poor thing was hit by a taxi and sadly didn't make it. After 5 years of training, Operation Acoustic Kitty turned out to be a complete waste of time and money that never even reached its target.
CIA, what were you thinking?
Curiosity killed the cat, but it was probably just trying to escape the CIA. RuneScape Cape. If you grew up in the early 2000s, there's a good chance you remember RuneScape. This was a mass multiplayer online role-playing game.
I actually remember my friends had a copy from their parents, and we played it.
But it wasn't anything special. Well, to most people, anyway. The Max Cape in RuneScape.
But we didn't even. You know what we did?
Ridiculously tedious to get. It inspired its own lingo: cape grinding.
You know what we did? We found a way to hack the game so that we both could play the game at the same person, so that we could level up. Do that.
If you're wondering how long that takes, some skills.
And we did it the easiest difficulty.
As little as 30 hours, whereas some can take over 130. There are guides out there that claim this can take up to 2,000 hours, or 3 straight months of playing. If you're wondering who would ever do this, the answer may shock you. According to the people at RuneScape themselves,
and
over 21,000 people have achieved level 99 in all skills. If this wasn't bad enough, one player by the name of Hauki got the cape on the hardest difficulty in the game, taking just under 5,000 hours of their life. All for a piece of virtual clothing that just tells the world, I have a lot of free time.
Yeah, video games, video games are like, sometimes the creators can be so stupid. Why make things so rare and so tedious and hard to get when it's just virtual? It's not even real. You're not achieving anything. It is super annoying. They do all that, just for a virtual achievement. Nothing real. You don't get no money, no praise, no nothing. Just that. Just some virtual thing. Then why even make us do it to get that?
Ended up perched on his toilet for a stomach-churning 116 hours.
Okay.
Just under 5 days. During that time, the friend
that is literally more time than I've sat on the toilet in a whole decade.
Just for the funny event. Unfortunately, this meant the toilet wasn't actually functional. So, Dufresne was permitted a 5-minute break every hour, which often saw him running from one toilet to another. Still, it's a gut-busting record I don't think will soon be beat. If only he'd been watching TV the whole time, he would have beaten 2 records.
Alright, because he spent under 4 days.
Super disappointment.
Oh boy.
If you head down to Texas and take a short drive out from the town of Waxahachie, you'll be met by an enormous, unassuming ditch. Looking at it, you probably wouldn't think much. You definitely wouldn't think the government paid nearly $2.5 billion to dig it. This is the now dead superconducting super collider, an enormous, ambitious, and sadly abandoned scientific endeavor.
And guys, all those scenes you see of like Lego stuff is a little teaser for a teaser I'm gonna be doing later. And I might upload a short first. So yeah, just not that. The Big Bang. They looked like galaxy, right? You didn't have to cut me up right now, son. So we were nothing. Now you're just somebody that I used to know. Now you're just somebody that I used to know.
Originally budgeted at around $4 billion.
What?
In the early 90s, its estimate was actually closer to a bank-breaking $12 billion. In
What?
1993, President Clinton signed a bill officially canceling the project.
When they spend $12 billion on it, why would you do that?
Years of wasted time,
Bruh.
a 14-mile-wide series of holes, and a $2.4 billion bill. Oh, and a very big, very expensive ditch. Can't forget that.
Yeah, why did he cancel after all?
1 million wrist cramps. If you've ever been in an argument on the internet, then you know the pain of typing out a long, agonizing series of words no one will ever read. That said, no amount of debate in a comment section could ever compare to what Australian retiree Les Stewart achieved in 1998. His journey began way back in April 1982, when he decided he was going to earn a world record, no matter how insane or inane it was. Les began typing numbers, starting with 1. He didn't just type 1, he typed O-N-E. Then he moved on to T-W-O. Then 3, with the eventual goal of making it to 1 million. And while this may not seem like much at first, imagine typing 366,998 before typing 366,999, knowing you still have 633,001 more words to type. According to Les, in order to achieve this goal, he typed for 20 minutes every single hour he was awake. As he began his quest in the 1980s, he did this using a typewriter, and it took him 16 years and 19,990 sheets of paper. Or, as Les would put it, 19,990. Venus genius. Back in 18th century France, Guillaume le Gentil was a highly respected astronomer with an equally respected head of hair. In 1761, he decided he wanted to record the transit of Venus, a rare phenomenon where the planet passes in front of the sun. To do this,
I actually saw this
all the way
once.
from his home in France to
Yeah.
India. Unfortunately, and this isn't a joke, ye olde thugs stole his ye olde wallet, which delayed his journey. By the time he reached India, the brief window to observe the transit was over. Eat your almonds. Oh, your bread.
Okay, and
Get tickets now for the must-see murder mystery event haunting in Venice. Either September 15th.
we do not care.
Didn't give up, though. He decided he would wait in India for 8 years for the next visible transit. During this time, Guillaume wrote to the Royal Academy and his family back in France, continuing his studies in India. When Guillaume's second chance finally came in 1769, it was too cloudy. Guillaume couldn't see a thing. Defeated, he finally decided to go home. But on the way back, his ship crashed, and he ended up stranded because life hated Guillaume. When he eventually arrived back home, 11 years had passed. But his story doesn't end there. Guillaume discovered that none of his letters had ever arrived. The ferryman had been taking his money and dumping them in the sea. He had been declared dead years ago. His position at the academy had been filled. His wife had remarried, and if you can take any more, his relatives had divided up his estate. For the love of God, people, look after your wallets. Capital conundrum. What's the
This video is almost over.
New York? That's pretty big. London? Yeah, that's big too. But in terms of land mass, Naypyidaw in Myanmar is 4 times larger than either of them. If you didn't know that, don't feel too bad, because Googling that question will bring up dozens of answers that leave out Naypyidaw. Why does everyone forget Naypyidaw? Well, it's probably because the city is basically one giant ghost town. It boasts just 131 people per square mile, which is nothing compared to London's 7,700 or New York's 27,000.
Yeah, that's very
Despite
close.
its size, this makes it one of the most vacant capitals in the world. But how did this happen? Well, in 2002, the Myanmar government made the bizarre decision to move the capital city to a jungle in the middle of nowhere, because the old capital of Yangon was apparently too crowded and congested. 10 years and $4 billion later, construction of Naypyidaw was finally finished. It has fast Wi-Fi, a couple of golf courses, and even a safari park. It's
I will
just
go
people
there.
who, for some reason, didn't want to move to the middle of nowhere. This has led Naypyidaw to become an eerily vacant city. The shining jewel of the capital is no longer the giant gold pagoda at its center, but the insane 20-lane highway leading to the city, which is always empty. Personally, I think Myanmar should put this thing to use. Can you imagine a Fast and Furious chase scene here? The Filmarillion. Sometimes you post something on the internet and it gets a bunch of likes, retweets, or reposts, and it's a nice feeling. You can't have too much of a good thing, however, which is what 4chan poster UTV discovered in 2013. UTV was a pretty unremarkable user, mostly posting about sports. It was strange then when he discovered he had a very, very dedicated fan. An anonymous user kept showing up wherever he posted, praising him and demonstrating a shocking familiarity with his history. The user claimed to have printed out UTV's posts, giving them to the homeless, and even made a belt out of them. Many thought the user was a troll. After all, the idea of someone becoming obsessed with a 4chan sports poster is ludicrous, right? Well, no.
So my
One day,
camera
the
looks
poster
for a little
claimed
bit.
his parents discovered his UTV paraphernalia and forced him to get rid of it all. He made one last post, the Filmarillion, a 97-page upload of all his UTV obsessions. In the Filmarillion, you can find an apartment the creator imagined he could live with UTV in, a script for a TV show starring them both, 3D modeled cities made from his posts, and many more weird endeavors. Did this guy seriously have nothing better to do? Well, shortly after this, UTV, understandably, stopped posting. Capone Zone. In the 1920s, Al Capone was the biggest mobster in town. Capone wasn't just the kingpin of one of the largest criminal outfits the U.S. had ever seen, but was also at the top of the FBI's most wanted list. Funny how that works. Not long after he was arrested, rumors started spreading about some great secret treasure of his that was never recovered. When the secret vault was discovered in the catacombs of Capone's hideout in the 1980s, it captured the country's imagination. Reporter Geraldo Rivera leapt on the story, looking for a way to restart his career after ending his partnership with ABC. So he pitched a massive special, The Mystery of Al Capone's Vault, in which they'd open it on live TV, with a production cost of $900,000.
$900,000?
For over 2 hours, Riviera shouted over construction workers and jackhammers, theorizing what could be in the 60-year-old vault to 30 million viewers. America was abuzz with excitement about what could be inside. Was it cash, jewels, maybe a secret fortune? When the vault was finally open, the answer surprised everyone. It was nothing. Absolutely nothing. Worse than that, it was dirty nothing.
It's a lot of dirt.
The entire recorded waste of time is available on Riviera's website. And you have to hand it to the guy for taking the embarrassment in his stride. Well, maybe in 30 years we can expect a live stream where a down-and-out PewDiePie opens a long-forgotten Fortnite loot box.
It's in. It's in, I tell you. Where's that Den TDM? I don't remember.
The adorable, rainbow-pooping, Pop-Tart cat hybrid that took the internet by storm over 10 years ago. Although Nyan Cat was just a few frames of animation over a 10-second audio loop of a Japanese pop song, it found its way into all of our hearts and ears. It didn't take long for tributes, imitations, and unauthorized merchandise to creep its way onto the internet.
I've been sitting against a hard stone wall all day.
10-hour loop of the meme. This was clearly a joke and not a video intended for actual viewing. Well, the internet is full of stupid people doing stupid things for stupid reasons.
Tell me about it.
In 2012, a mysterious user called the Game Pro uploaded evidence of them doing the unthinkable, watching the whole thing, the whole 10-hour video. For the entire duration, he bopped along, ate his meals, and tried to entertain himself by tapping. Amazingly, he made it, and when he reached the end, he only had this to say.
Of course it was an ad. I was expecting it.
You feel like wet kelp? Switch to native. Clean, simple, effective hair care.
Yeah, I care.
For the entire duration, he... Either this guy has nothing... only had this to say.
Oh, yeah.
Either this guy has nothing better to do, or he just really, really loves Nyan Cat. Revel in failure. In 2006, Morgan Stanley invested in the construction of a $2.4 billion behemoth, the Revel Casino and Resort. Originally planned as two giant casinos, the Revel was intended to attract a new, more upmarket clientele to Atlantic City, New Jersey. 6 grueling years later, the Revel Resort opened its doors to the public. Unfortunately for Atlantic City, the Revel wasn't quite the tourist trap that had been envisioned. And by that I mean it was $1 billion in debt and filing for bankruptcy less than a year later. As it turns out, opening a giant casino in a city already known for casinos isn't a great way to attract new tourists. After shutting down, the Revel sold to Glenn Straub for $82 million, less than 4% of its construction cost. Straub tentatively renamed the casino to 10, but ultimately just let the building rot. AC Ocean Walk then bought it for $200 million. After 3 owners and 3 name changes, the Ocean Casino opened its doors in June 2019 and enjoyed a few months of business before being forced to close down in March 2020 due to COVID-19. Today, the Ocean Casino is still chugging along and still being pawned off to new buyers. If you're interested, you can stay in the cursed hotel. Just avoid the 12 floors that are still empty.
I like how he does that meme.
Fan fiction or fan fact?
Oh, this is videos taking forever.
Have been written in the English language throughout history, and many of those have been
like 4 minutes left.
Can you guess the longest one ever? What if I tell you the names of some of the chapters? Hedgehogs of Evil, Mario the Dishonest. No. How about Yube's Belly, Fat Alien Yoshi's Stomach? Well, if you didn't guess, these are chapters from a work called the Subspace Emissaries World Conquest, a piece of Nintendo fan fiction. In it, you can expect to see various video game characters fighting, playing sports, and saving the world. Oh, and it just so happens to be the single longest work of fiction in the English language. That's right, author Aura Channeler Chris, who claims to read solely fan fiction, has written a story more than 4,100,000 words long. That's longer than Ulysses, Infinite Jest, and the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy.
But the Lord of the Rings was originally books? I did not know that. It's kind of like Harry Potter.
221 chapters.
What?
And it's a sequel, so the entire saga is actually even longer.
What?
It was started way back in 2008, with its last update in 2018. By that math,
it's 10 years.
This guy's currently written more than 410,000 words of fic a year. That means every 3 years, he writes more words than are in the entire Harry Potter saga for free. Well, at least this fan fiction was a creative outlet. The real scary waste of time is that some reviewers on fanfiction.net claim to have read the entire story multiple times. Wow. The mother of all time wasters. Whatever your record for time wasting is, there's no way you can beat Simeon of the Stylites. This guy makes everyone else we've mentioned look like an Olympic sprinter, because Simeon sat down, shut his eyes, and did nothing for 37 years. Simeon was born to a poor family around 390 CE in what is now Syria. Simeon saw the quiet, modest, and contemplative lives of the monks around him and said, "Hold my beer." Not that he was ever coming back for it. In an attempt to achieve enlightenment, or perhaps just show the other punk monks how it was done, Simeon decided to sit on a pillar and think. And there he sat, day after day, night after night.
What?
He survived only after several local boys grew concerned for his health and began leaving him food and milk. After a while, Simeon became a bit of a celebrity, and soon the locals had leaned a ladder up on the pillar so visitors could chat with him and ask for guidance. Imagine the kind of state you must be in to ask the pillar dude for advice. Oh, and if you're wondering if this is just a folk tale or some kind of ancient gossip, dozens of people wrote about Simeon, so it looks like this guy was the real deal. Simeon
What is that
reportedly
picture?
sat on that pillar for anywhere between 37 and 42 years before eventually dying up there. He was made a saint for his efforts, so if he didn't achieve enlightenment, at least he achieved fame. The real tragedy is Simeon apparently inspired copycats, and those guys don't even get the honor of posting first. There you have it. The greatest...
Finally, it's over. Alright, I don't have to sit on a stone for a long time, like I just did. Alright, this video is over. I'm gonna end it right here. I know it's 30 minutes long, but I did it for content. Don't do it yourself. I would not recommend it. Probably space watching this video apart like a little bit, a while maybe. Yeah, these guys' views can be really long. I would much rather watch the shorter ones, but whatever. At least it's done. See you in the next one. Peace.